Hey guys, my name's Jen, and on this channel I talk about being a female diagnosed with autism and ADHD. Now, we've discussed some pretty serious topics on this channel that have major impacts on the lives of neurodivergent people, but today I thought it would be fun for us to take a step back from some of the more serious stuff and laugh at ourselves a little bit. So today, we're going to read some embarrassing autism stories, and what better place to visit for this than that glorious corner of the internet we call Reddit. I got the idea for this video a while ago because I've had a few embarrassing social faux pas of my own that, looking back, were probably autism related. And I thought it would be funny to share some of those stories with you guys, but I didn't know how I was going to fill up an entire video with just my own stories, which is why I dragged Reddit into this.
You don't drag me into this?
So I'll kick it off by sharing a few of my own stories, then we'll read some by others that were made possible by the fantastic users of Reddit. Let's get into it. I'll start with my most recent one, and the TLDR version is that I basically embarrassed the ever-loving heck out of myself by abruptly standing up at dinner with friends like I had ants in my pants because I thought dinner was over, but apparently dinner was not over. But the backstory goes a little like this. It had been a really long day of socializing for me at that point because earlier in the day I had attended a friend's 40th birthday party, and then my husband and I had agreed to go to a comedy show and dinner later on in that same day with some other friends. Now you might ask me why I had subjected myself to that much social interaction in one day, and I don't have an answer for you. Let's just say it was kind of a long story as to why everything fell on that same day. Anyway, as you can imagine, I ran out of spoons around, I don't know, noon, after having been at the birthday party for like an hour. But to quote the famous Robert Frost, I still had miles to go before I could sleep. So we make it through the birthday party, then the comedy show, then fast forward to dinner with our friends, and my synopsis is we're no longer synapsing. My spoon deficit was so big at this point, I'm still paying the interest off on it to this day. Now, to be fair to myself, you could say dinner was technically over because we had paid the bill. Dinner's supposed to be over after you pay the bill, but no, neurotypical people like to stay and talk after that. So once the server dropped that receipt off at the table, my mind said, we're done here, not noticing the fact that my girlfriend had just started telling a new story about their vacation. And quite literally, in the middle of my girlfriend talking in what could only be described as a brain glitch, I just quickly stood up and said, all right, well, you guys have a good night. And as I looked around the table, I saw the eyes of everyone staring at me in bewilderment and confusion. And since no one else was standing up, I realized what I had just done. And even though it was probably only a few seconds, it felt like an hour of me standing up at the table because, of course, time always slows down when we're having an embarrassing moment. So I just stood there with everyone staring at me, not knowing what to do, but I was already pot committed at that point. Like, how do you rescind abruptly standing up and making a royal proclamation that it's time to go home? There's no stuffing that genie back into the bottle. So after a few seconds of silence, my girlfriend just said, yeah, okay, I guess we're done here, in an upward inflection that was clearly a question mark and not a statement of agreement. Now, I tried to play it off, but when I tell you I got into the safety of my car with my husband, I told him that I wished a hole would open up in the earth and swallow me up because I just could not handle the feeling of embarrassment, and immediately tried to figure out which text message I was going to compose to apologize to everyone and explain myself, which then became a thing that woke me up in the middle of the night to replay in my head for a few months after that. Then there was the time I ruined the surprise of my friend's retirement party. Oh yes, I ruined a surprise retirement party. Now this one takes place at least 1 decade BD, before diagnosis. And my husband and I had been hanging out at a park with 2 other couples friends, and we were all getting ready to say goodbye. Now, I had been told about the retirement party of our friend's wife, and so as I hugged her to tell her goodbye, I told her, I'll see you at your retirement party. Yeah, you feel that cringe through the screen, don't you? So she pulls back from her hug, looks at me and says, retirement party? What retirement party? And as those words hit me, I looked up and saw her husband, who was sitting behind her, hang his head and shake it in disappointment. Now, I don't remember much from my past, but this moment in particular is chiseled into the stone recesses of my mind. The look on his face is something I will unfortunately never be able to wipe from my memory. I have no clue what I said after that, but the second I got into the car, I texted one of our other friends to ask if she knew it was a surprise, and she said yes. Of course she did. To which I replied, well, no one told me. And she said, well, I didn't need to be told. I just assumed it was, so I knew not to say anything about it. And I just remember thinking to myself, how the heck do people just know unsaid things like this and I don't? Seriously, it felt like there was a shortage at the printing press for the How to Be a Human manual, and I didn't get one. So that's a fun story my brain likes to remind me of every so often. And finally, it was the time I was a young lass working at Target, and a guy came up to me, looked me up and down, and said, "Ooh girl, you thick." And I ran off to tell my nearest coworker that a customer had just called me fat. Now, if you don't know, apparently this is supposed to be a compliment, but I literally cannot keep up with y'all's urban dictionaries, alright? Anyway, speaking of Target, that is the perfect segue into where our first Reddit story takes place. I was helping a female customer when I worked at Target, and we got into an argument when I called her a guest. So as a bona fide previous Target employee, I can attest that this is actually true. We were indeed instructed to call them guests. I called her a guest, and she tried to correct me that she was a customer. So she replied with, "Well, I'm a customer because I buy stuff." And I replied, "Well, ma'am, we're supposed to refer to customers as guests." And she said I was very rude. So I hit her with the "sorry, but I'm autistic" line, and she just stopped and stared at me and said, "Me too." And we both just stared at each other until she walked away and out of the store. Why does this remind me of this meme? Anyway, I love how they were both technically correct, but also they were both so super rigid about their position, which was like locking them into this autistic standoff. First time I talked to a girl I liked, I was 14 years old. I thought, no more overthinking and being scared and not taking any chances. So I just walked right up to her in the beginning of class. And of course, the moment I stood in front of her, my brain panicked and froze. And the only thing to come out was me. My father is dead. Her. And what, you're proud of that? Me. Dead quiet, sinking through the floor. Her. Telling everyone, pointing and laughing. Not sure why, I guess my subconscious thought, oh, here's something that's special about you, let's go with that. Took me years to initiate romantic contact again. Had a couple of girlfriends in my 20s, but have since given up again. Listen, we've all been in those rooms where we're told to introduce ourselves by sharing something interesting about ourselves. And last time I checked, no one said it had to be something positive and cheerful. But also, hashtag relatable about those moments I think we all had growing up where we just wake up one day angry and decide that today's the day we're going to be more normaler. So we just push past our normal tendencies, confidently strut into neurotypical land, but end up tripping over our metaphorical shoelaces because confident neurotypical person isn't really how we were constructed. So might as well be happy being weird? Probably when I'd driven a friend home who was a girl after a comedy gig, and she asked if I wanted to stay over, to which I replied, "But where would I sleep?" And she goes, the couch. Lord, what a clueless Muppet I was. I mean, seems like a legitimate question to me. Logistics are important. Where's the misunderstanding? That seems like something I would want to know. My moment was a few years ago when I was 21. I was in a group therapy meeting in college. Some dude was talking about this bad car accident he was in a few weeks ago. And I went on this ramble about an accident that I had been in, completely not noticing the room's body language. After the session, the two therapists pulled me aside and had a talk with me about why that had happened. At that moment, that was the same moment I realized my up. That moment still makes my face go red, even though it happened like almost 4 years ago. So unfortunately, this is something that happens to a lot of autistics because sharing our own stories is actually one of the ways we relate to others. It's not meant to be a one-upper or to hijack the conversation. It's literally how we show that not only do we care, but that we also understand and can relate. However, to be fair, yeah, a group therapy session probably isn't the best place to attempt showcasing that level of understanding. Gone on a date that I didn't realize was a date until the whole thing had ended. It was awful. Hey, at least you didn't agree to catch up with an old friend from high school who hasn't reached out in 10 years, only to find yourself in the middle of a multi-level marketing recruitment pitch that leads you into years of wasted time and money. Those sneaky neurotypicals. When I was younger, I played this small online game called Think Tanks. A player I was friends with was much older than me, and one day she told people in the server we were in that it was her birthday. Everyone wished her a happy birthday and made old age jokes, like joking about things like bad hips or back, so I tried to join in by asking if she had had her first heart attack yet. I quickly found out that that was not a good thing to say because I was immediately told off by everyone else for saying that. Also, there was this other person in the game that once mentioned he was dying from some medical condition. I knew people often said things like, "It's okay," or "It's not that bad" when it came to supporting people. So the best thing my brain came up with was, "Oh, dying isn't that bad." Nobody said anything, so I didn't realize that what I had said may have been insensitive until I thought about it again about a month ago and cringed. Needless to say, I should probably stay away from the subject of medical issues. There, dying's not that bad. For misinterpreting my partner's body language as wanting to be embraced instead of wanting to be left alone. Well, that put me in the doghouse. Yeah, deficits in nonverbal communication have probably put a few of us in the proverbial doghouse, my friend. You're not alone. I was around 4 years old and had a birthday party. A girl came in with a present. I unwrapped it. It was a pink Barbie toothbrush. I hated Barbies and I hated pink, but she looked like she thought it was awesome and was going to enjoy it more than I would. So I thought the most logical thing I could do was to give it back. That was not appreciated, mostly by her parents, even though at the time I really didn't understand how people could be mad about me basically doing something logical and nice. So let me get this straight. You wanted to make sure her parents' money wasn't wasted by giving it to someone that would actually enjoy it? Sounds like the epitome of logic, kindness, and valuing of resources, if you ask me. I played warrior cats on the playground every single day. Nobody else wanted to, so I was just crawling around on all fours and hissing and meowing at people. I didn't know that this was weird. I'm cringing now just remembering it. Listen, I could go on a spiel here about delayed maturity and autism and doing our own preferred activities no matter what, but instead, I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say that I think Warrior Cats would be an awesome band name. Warrior Cats! I was playing a game by myself. What a surprise, when a girl from a different class noticed me and came up to me. She asked if she could chat with me and I said sure. So she asked me some questions and talked about herself. I didn't ask any, I just listened. And after a while it got too overwhelming for me. So I politely told her, "I don't want to talk with you anymore." She seemed upset when she went away, but I couldn't understand what I did wrong. I just didn't feel like talking or listening to her anymore, but I couldn't grasp that it was kind of rude to say that to someone. I hope I didn't traumatize her. Okay, this right here was a great story if you ask me. My only question is, why can't we live in a world where we can just tell people we don't want to talk to them anymore without traumatizing them? Seems like that would be kind of awesome. In first grade, I told a boy his art project sucked. When the teacher asked me why I did that, I said, because mine is better. I mean, art is subjective, but if you really felt yours was better and you had taken into account the probability of societal feedback, time spent, and talent and still came to this conclusion, then he just couldn't handle the truth. I like how this person comments and just says, savage. This thread makes me feel so much better about embarrassing moments. Thank you to everyone for sharing. A cousin of mine was over, and our whole family was involved in a discussion about asking a woman her age. My dad said that you should never do that because she could slap you. My male cousin turned to me and asked me how old I was, so I slapped him. Full force, might I add. Everyone was shocked and said that I couldn't do that. I was so confused because I felt like I had just been taught a social rule and I was following it perfectly. All right, listen, Linda, listen, we do not condone violence on this channel, okay? Putting your hands on someone is not funny. But taking a social expression like this literally is maybe kind of funny. A little bit, like just this much. And our final story of today comes from Sivan Karan, who says, I have too many, but one time as an adult in a group therapy, someone asked how we all got here in a deep, philosophical type of way. I said, I got the bus. All right, guys, those were some embarrassing autistic moments. I hope you laughed a little bit and found some catharsis in them. If you have your own embarrassing autistic moment, please share that below so that you can make me and these users of Reddit feel a little less alone. If you'd like to see one of these about embarrassing ADHD moments, let me know that too. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, unless, of course, you try to click it while balancing your phone in your non-dominant hand, causing it to fall, which triggers the reflexes in your foot to try to catch it, but instead you end up punting your phone into the wall in front of a bunch of your coworkers. Don't do that, okay? Just get yourself into a safe situation before you try to hit that like and subscribe button. Until next time, bye for now. Mwah. Warrior cat.